people come and tell you, well, but everybody's an admin by design. We decided, that was the design.
No.
Well,
no.
You're saying no, but I've actually heard.
Oh, I've heard it too.
So many times that people come and tell you, well, we gave this identity those strong permissions because that was by design. Why do they need it? Maybe it's a design, but it's a bad design and it's a risky design.
Welcome back to another episode of Business Disruptions in Tech. As always, I'm your host, Howard Holton, and we're here at Google Next 2026. I have the pleasure of having our first conversation with Menachem Shafran from XM Cyber. How's it going today?
Excellent. Actually, today it's not as hot as you would expect.
It's true.
You come here for Black Hat in August, it will be a lot hotter.
That's true.
So.
For those of us that come here for Hacker Summer Camp,
yep.
Right, it is very, very warm. So it is quite a bit nicer. It's 30 degrees cooler than it is in the summer.
Yep.
So you're the SVP of Strategy.
Yep.
So tell us a little bit, before we get into the fun stuff, tell us a little bit about XM Cyber.
Yeah, excellent. So XM Cyber, we're one of the leaders in the exposure management space. Basically, what that means is that we go and we help customers find different types of exposure. Could be vulnerabilities, identity issues, misconfiguration. But the uniqueness about it is that we actually help them understand how attackers can leverage those and chain them together to create significant business damage. So the idea is not just to tell you, hey, I have a million problems. The idea is to tell you how those problems could be leveraged for an attacker to reach your SAP environment, your PCI segment, or things that you care about, and how can you, solve those issues.
Excellent. And is that a tool? Is that people? Is it a combination of tooling and people?
So it's a platform that we provide. There are MSSPs and partners that create services around that. But basically, we work with our customers so that they build their procedures and basically evolve their vulnerability management program or their proactive protection programs.
Excellent. So it's a platform you can build a practice off of.
Yep.
I love that. So what brings XM Cyber and you to Google Next?
Oh, excellent. So XM Cyber, we're having a very deep partnership with Google, obviously around security elements. We have integrations with Google SecOps. We're actually launching here at Google Next an AI agent for Gemini Enterprise that will help people go and scan their Google Workspace environment for misconfiguration. That's going to be a free of charge tool that we're releasing. And there's a lot of different things that we're doing with Google in the ecosystem, with Mandiant and so forth. So that brings us here.
So how long have you guys been around, right?
So XM Cyber, we're in the industry for about 10 years now. Since the very beginning, that's what we've been doing. We're doing exposure management before it became a hype, I would say. The company today is around 400 employees. We're selling globally, and we're helping a lot of enterprises go and mature their security practices, which is beautiful to see.
Awesome. So there's a lot happening in the cyber world. There's a lot happening in the AI world. There's a ton of things going on here at Next. What has you excited? What are you passionate about?
So I think there's a few things that I'm excited about. First, I think the shift that we're seeing in the industry on proactive protection, on the fact that, I remember that when we just started, one of the challenges was people were coming and saying, we want to do detect and response, and that will save us. Doing vulnerability management is hard. Fixing non-vulnerability issues is even harder. We'll have a good EDR. We'll have a good SOC. We'll catch attackers. And I think that today people are realizing that they cannot just invest in detect and response. They're moving to understanding we need to harden our environments. And I think that especially now, with the AI elements that are coming in, we're seeing things moving so much faster. The attack surface is expanding. Attackers are moving faster, and we realize that the only way to actually defend ourselves is by reducing the attack surface, and that is very exciting to me to see how people are adapting to these changes and are basically trying to figure out how can they leverage different capabilities to solve those problems.
I mean, the only way that you're going to deal with it is reduce the attack surface and reduce the blast radius.
Yep.
Right? There's not really a third answer anymore.
You can't just come and say we'll catch them when they're here. There's so much things going on and things are moving so fast that you reduce that attack surface. You make sure that and the question is, how do you do that? Because no one can fix everything.
Sure.
Even if you have all the AI agents that are coming and working for you and all the things that people are starting to discuss, you still have endless amount of things to fix, especially when you're coming and talking about non-vulnerabilities, identity issues. Identity issues is a bit more tricky. People come and tell you, well, but everybody's an admin by design. We decided, that was the design.
No.
Well,
no.
You're saying no, but I've actually heard.
Oh, I've heard it too.
So many times that people come and tell you, well, we gave this identity those strong permissions because that was by design. Why do they need it? Maybe it's a design, but it's a bad design and it's a risky design. So solving those things is much more interesting. How do you convince people to solve them? But then convince them how to solve them, because you can come and say, I'll chop down permissions, but maybe those are actually needed. Someone did this design decision to give those permissions, or maybe we can do something else. Figuring out how to reduce the attack surface is interesting and opens up a lot of discussions with security teams and IT teams and so forth.
I love the admin is security by design, because an outhouse is a privy by design, but we don't use an outhouse anymore either, because we've learned outhouses are a terrible place to take crap. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Hiding behind we did this by design. First, I don't know why you'd admit that. You know what I mean?
It's easy.
But second,
it's not your design. You're saying,
sure.
I'm the security team, but they're not going to fix it because they did it. They told me they did it by design. Someone needs that permission. Why? I don't know. And
that's the problem. That's why it can't be by design in reality. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If it's by design, well, then you documented the reason that you needed that.
Yep.
And we all refer back to that documentation because it was in the design, not it was easy. That's what they're actually saying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not.
No. Yeah, but did you do in proper risk acceptance?
Right.
You said we're accepting this risk. We acknowledge that this creates a risk, but we need it because of A, B, and C.
Sure.
And in most cases, by design is kind of like we were lazy. We wanted things to work fast. So I remember first time I deployed SharePoint or whatever. You needed to install the IIS server and the MS SQL server and whatever, and you need to get all those things to work together. Just give them root, give them admin, SA for everything, and it works. So that's the design now.
Yep. It did. It absolutely worked, right? And we all said we'd clean it up.
One day.
I think user permissions, whether those are non-machine identities or machine identities, I think that's our probably going to be our biggest risk moving forward. I think exposure management is absolutely critical, right? Again, reducing that attack surface and reducing the blast radius, hugely impactful. I think the thing that's going to bite us harder is user identities, because at least with an attack surface, there is constant action I can take at any time.
Yeah.
Right. It's really like if I don't have to reboot a system, right, and all I'm doing is refining that fingerprint, I can generally do that all of the time with minimal impact to the business, which also means minimal risk to the security team.
Yep.
Right. But permissions, holy crap. And you can't rely on vendor documentation, right? Because too often the vendor documentation itself says, our application needs to have SA access to the SQL database. No, it does not. You're reading and publishing on a web page. Why does it need SA access? You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, especially, we're looking, we've actually published recently a blog on default configurations in Vertex. Google Vertex, you use it, you use those, a lot of different, AI tools. And then the default configuration, and sometimes, create risks. They're open, but, they're easy. And they're saying it's just default. If you don't need those for something, then change them. But, people don't, that's the vendor gave me that as the default, so I'm using it. And people need to understand that they need to check what do they actually need in the permissions. And the fact that the vendor just gave it as a default doesn't mean that, in many cases, you remember default password used to be 1, 2, 3, 4. That doesn't mean that it's supposed to stay that way, but we wanted to give you an easy password for you to remember when you start with.
Right. We want something we put in the documentation. So it's admin.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly. So same for all identities and a lot of configurations and things, and a lot of things that are coming. And I think a lot, especially when we're looking at AI capabilities today, people want to move fast and we want to get things to work. You don't actually go and check everything. You're asking, hey, Gemini, can you do this for me? You're going to anti-gravity and you're telling it, and do you actually read what it did exactly? No, you're assuming that it's, yeah. So there's a lot of challenges that we're facing around different things that might not be configured properly. They might work,
Sure.
but the fact that the vendor put them, or the fact that the AI decided that that's how it's supposed to be configured, don't necessarily mean that that's the right way for your organization. And those are a lot of challenges that we're starting to face.
So I think the question that we all, as members of this industry, it's very, very easy to say it's on the end user and the end user organization to fix this, to do this properly. And I don't disagree. There's absolutely responsibility for every enterprise owner and every enterprise admin. That's what we're paid for, is to fix these things. I think for a long time, the vendor side of the equation has really kind of skated on their responsibility, right? Do you have thoughts around that?
No, so I think you're absolutely right. I mean, I think when people started with the share responsibility, it was kind of throwing off responsibility,
Okay.
But I do think that a lot of things are improving in that aspect as well. More in I would say legacy cloud things. I mean, if you remember just a few years ago, S3 buckets were public by default. Why? Because a lot of times you want them to be accessible.
Because fast.
And it's fast. And it's just the default. You want to change it. And now it's reversed. Things are locked down by default, and you need to open them up. So there is secure default and things. So vendors are starting to take a bit more ownership on that fact. I think that when we're coming to all the new technologies that are coming out now, we're starting to step back again a bit because people want to move fast.
Sure.
And when they want to move fast, they're putting security aside. And that's, we've seen that again and again. So we've gotten better when we looked at cloud security in general. And now with all the AI capabilities that are coming out, we're getting back to this, the user should take responsibility and make it work.
It's a little problematic, right? Especially considering the AI is really good at knowing the documentation when given it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So the accessibility to how to do it right has never been easier. And it doesn't have to be 100% right. You just can't be 0% right. Right? Yeah. And admin by default is 0% right.
Yeah.
Right? That's not to say we don't do those things because of a lack of knowledge and the time around it. But with AI, we should be able to speed up acquiring that knowledge, right? What permissions do I actually need and how do I find them becomes a much easier thing, I think, than it ever had in the past.
Yeah, but I still think, there's mindset to different things.
For sure.
Work, and if you don't tell, if you don't tell the tools, hey, do this security or check this thing or fix that, a lot of times how you write, you go to Claude Code and you tell him write something and then you say, well, it's broken, fix it. But that's also broken, fix it. Do you actually step aside and say, is it also secure? Go and check the security configuration and secure it. And it is easier, but you need to have the mindset to go and ask that.
100%.
And I think a lot of people are running fast and they're not going to look at those different things. But I'm sure that will also evolve. The only question is what would be the gap in the time frame where we'll have this chaos coming out, and what will be the impact of it.
Sure. I mean, S3 buckets were exposed for 3/4 of a decade by default.
Yep.
Right? And we found hundreds of thousands of exposed S3 buckets with amazing and interesting data before the behavior changed by default.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So let's pull it back to kind of the exposure management, right? And reducing your attack surface. What are some things that you're seeing customers do that you wish they would just stop doing? Like easy things where they make a mistake early on that you wish they would stop doing.
So, well, different customers do different mistakes. I think I think there's a lot of challenges that I see people having in shifting their mindset into do small, rapid fixes. I think people come, and especially you look at vulnerability management, people think we need to fix thousands of vulnerabilities.
Sure.
We need to fix, we're never going to manage to fix all of those. And then they're either getting paralyzed and doing nothing, or they're just trying to fix, whatever you fix, and then you just basically lack priority. You need that additional context, and I definitely think that the more people go and they understand what is actually important, and make sure that you fix every week, go to different teams, and they need to fix 3 top things. And I think that is something that I wish I've seen more people adopt that mindset, because when I see the customers that do adopt it, it's amazing how much they can improve. And I really think that that's something that people should more do in the industry.
Yeah, for sure, right? If all we're paying attention to is the CVE, and we're not paying attention to what the path is, and if that's a valid path for us in our situation, we're going to spend a lot of time working on things that have a really high score, and probably miss the things that are 7.6, 7.7, 7.8 that have a direct path into our environment.
Exactly.
Right? So I think you're right. I think that context makes a huge difference.
So context and understanding that it's okay to come and say, I'm doing the top things, but I need to know what the top things are.
For sure.
If I don't know what the top things, I just look at, for example, CVSS score, and I don't really understand the context of my environment, I'm either just going to fix some random stuff, or I'm just going to say, okay, there's too much things. You see security teams go to developers, to DevOps, to IT, to whoever they need to remediate, because security teams, we don't fix anything ourselves. We pass on.
For sure.
If I come with a huge list, hey, next time we meet, you've seen this 10 pages of rejects, you're not going to do anything. That's not going to work. You're just going to create bad blood. And we all know, IT and security are fighting each other all the time. It's not. IT cares about security. I haven't seen an IT leader that comes and say to me, no, security is not my problem. I don't care if we get breached.
Not
one. Care.
Not one, right? All of them care. However, they're also not primarily paid on it.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the problem. The motivation has to align as well.
But if you come and you collaborate with them,
for sure,
and you're coming and giving them something reasonable, you understand that I cannot give you 10,000 tasks because you're not getting paid on that. You're getting paid on the other stuff. Things will happen. Things will get done, and you'll get a discussion with them, which is more deep than, it's by design. I'm
gonna remember that forever. Right. GigaOM, we call that the Wolfpack Trinity, right? The requirement of the CIO, the CTO, and the CISO and their organizations to work together so they benefit the overall larger company, right?
Yeah.
The job of the CTO's team, right, the software development team, is to deliver new business value faster.
Yeah.
Right? So, they're not paid based on security. And if you go to them with 10 pages of 500 things, they're going to laugh and they're going to go, I'll file that in the appropriate place. But if you come with a list of 5 things, hey, the next time you're doing a push, can you just fix these 3 things in the next push? Whole lot more receptive. Yeah, sure. And you've told me what I need to actually do? Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Right?
Exactly. And it's just in everything else in life, If you have a reasonable ask, people are nice. Most people.
Most people want to be helpful.
Yeah.
Right? That is part of the human condition. Right? And if they don't, maybe ask about your approach. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some people just never, they're never going to change. They don't want to do anything different, But the reality is most people want to be helpful. And oftentimes I find it's kind of the approach that stymies us, right? So what are big things you're seeing that have you interested with customers? Are you seeing any shifts in a positive way? Are you seeing us going in a positive direction?
So first, I definitely see, you see first the adoption of exposure management, which is basically understanding that we need to be more proactive. You're seeing people understanding that they need the context when they're doing remediations, that they need that context, and the context is how everything is tied together. You cannot do cloud security, AI security, on-premise security, vulnerability management, all those different things touch each other. And I am seeing more and more in the industry. I mean, if you look, when we started, you told people, oh, we'll do attack path and attack graphs. And today, a lot of solutions come and say, we'll show you some attack path. It still might not be a complete graph and an analysis of where is the best ROI in terms of remediation, sure. But it still is, people understand that context, is important. And we're actually starting to see more and more demand, and that's something that we're seeing from our customers coming and telling us, we want that context that you're bringing on exposure management also for our other places, for our SOC, for example. Because when a SOC analyst gets an alert, and the fact that he knows that, on this device here that I got the alert, this is how an attacker can pivot to something that is critical for the business.
Sure.
It's important for him. It helps him do better analysis, better decisions, and
faster.
Yeah.
Right. I always say, right, as a CISO, I have, 20 people. They're able to get, say, 100 things done a day. That's it. 100 things. They can accomplish 100 things. So what are the 100 things they should be focused on? The faster I get those 100 things, the better my people are going to be at dealing with the priorities.
Yep.
And that's always been my big ask, right? They're going to do 100 things a day. If I can get them to do more of the right things, they don't need to do 100 of the right things. But if I could shift it from 20 right things to 40 right things to 60 right things to 80 right things, I'm infinitely happier.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I think people need to acknowledge that sometimes you do things that are waste of time.
For sure.
I'm going, so in XM, for many, many years, I was leading the product management, from pretty much the early days of the company, the vision, what we want to build. And a lot of times I came to the engineering and I'm telling them, we're exploring, we're going to build this. Maybe it won't catch, maybe the market won't adopt it, and we'll throw it out. And we need to understand that a lot of the things that we're doing are things that we think might be right, but we're not sure when we're doing them, and it's fine, and you do 100 things, and if you do 40 of them all right, you're in the right direction. And
Correct.
Try to see how you can improve, but don't assume that if I don't know it's right, I shouldn't do it. That's not.
Agreed, right? Perfection is the enemy of progress.
Yep.
Right? And security is all about progress. It doesn't have to be the perfect progress. It just has to be progress. Also, for CISOs that are watching, anything that you can do to show that your efficiency is improved within cyber is something you can report directly to your board that justifies the money that they're spending. So pay really close attention. Always look for an opportunity to report positively to your board that you are spending their money wisely. And exposure management and something that really shows you the attack chain, so you have something reliable to say, this is how we prioritize, it's a huge win in the boardroom.
Yeah, definitely. I see, discussing with the boardroom how you're investing your money. It's not just, I got this tool and I got that tool. I've actually improved and I've done things that, that help things that the business care about. If you're coming, and we still see CISOs that are coming and measuring and talking to their management and saying, yeah, we fixed this and this amount of vulnerabilities and whatever. It doesn't say anything.
It means nothing at all.
Coming and reporting on this is the context, this is where we've improved on things that the business care about is a game changer. That makes the ability to obtain budget for projects is much easier when you come and you give the context. You come and tell, look, this is why we need this. This is important because those systems that we rely on, are in a big risk, and we can show it. And this is how this project is going to help about this. And then afterwards, you can go and report and say, hey, look, we've actually improved.
Yeah, I mean the 15 years ago, the board would tell me, we better not get hacked. Right? 10 years ago, they wanted to know how bad it was going to be. Now, they want to know, when will it be? It's going to happen. It's not going to be good. When's it going to happen? Right? How long do you think we have? How likely is it? Right? The context has been changing around that conversation for a while. And the best CISOs I know get in front of their boards and speak to them in business terms, not technical terms.
Yep.
Right.
And I think it's, you talk in business terms and you come and tell them, look, this is the things that we can do to reduce the blast radius that's going to happen. This, we might get, and there might be a damage, and this is how we're going to handle it. And I think there's a lot of different activities that we're seeing more and more, even doing, kind of like tabletop exercises and things of that nature, so people understand what's going to happen and how we're handling it, and that helps them also relate to. That's why I'm asking this for this budget. I want to do this project not because I think it's a cool project. I want to do it because I think it's going to improve our security in those places that are important for the business.
So are there any patterns that you see in kind of smart cyber organizations that people can kind of look to and take on?
I need to think about it. It's, we talked about the agility of how they're fixing. I think the fact that they acknowledge that they're doing things, and some of the things that they're doing are trial and errors, so they're trying to learn and improve.
It's about fail fast, right?
Yeah.
I want to try a bunch of things. If you're not failing, you're probably not pushing the limits of anything. So you're probably not really succeeding as much as you think you are, and certainly not as much as you could be.
Yeah. And yeah, I think those are the things that come to mind, when
I love that. All right. So you meet with a lot of customers. You help them set up these exposure management programs or refine the ones they currently have. When you're kind of going into these, is there anything that customers should kind of prepare for or know before they go into kind of this beginnings of a program that would be helpful that you're kind of surprised they don't know?
I think that they need to acknowledge the fact that they will need to change patterns. You're not buying just a tool. Buying a tool is easy, but changing how you're operating, how you're protecting the business, how you're presenting, security to management, how you are changing the processes. Think about it just as, every organization has a vulnerability management program. Now you need to understand that it's not just about CVEs, it's about a lot of other things, and that would mean changing the processes that you're doing and the processes that you interact with other departments. And that's something that I think people don't acknowledge enough when they're starting, and that's a thing that they need to cross in order to adopt exposure management properly.
Right. Exposure management isn't a tool. It's a program, and a program is people, process, and tools working together.
Exactly.
And so that alters your operating model. So you really need to think about how your operating model needs to be altered.
I wish, we could buy a product and it would solve
and it'd just be magic.
And it was just, we just clicked on it and it solved our problem, and I don't need to change the people and the processes, because people is a lot harder to change than buying a tool. But
for sure.
But in the end, if none of those things work separately, if you're not willing to go and make a change, buying another tool will not make the difference.
For sure. So this has been fantastic, and I think we could probably do this for another hour. As we wrap here, how do people learn more, and how do they get a hold of you?
So we'll learn more. Then we have XM Cyber has a blog that we're publishing a lot of different things, whether it's research things or things around how you do exposure management better. Getting a hold of me, either Twitter, X, LinkedIn. I'm also available. I think instead of helping spelling my name, because my name is hard to spell,
we'll put it in the notes.
Put it in the notes. Feel free to reach out. XM Cyber, we're also available. You can reach out to us, LinkedIn, at X. We have on the website ways to contact us. The entire team will be happy to engage, but I'm personally, I love talking to people and talking about cybersecurity and how things are changing. So it's been really, really a pleasure, and I'm looking forward to hearing from the audience.
Great. Well, this has been another episode of Business Disruptions in Tech. Like, subscribe, follow, share, and we'll see you on our next episode.